Do you see it that way?
I do not see it that way. Because again, if you listen to JAMB registrar's explanation, that well, the JAMB only serves as a clearinghouse for admission seekers, but that the academic board of various universities, the senate of various universities, which has responsibility to take decision on standard of academics, can decide on what their cutoff point would be for their individual universities.
So do you think then that your body, I mean the body, your union which you belong to, is being hypocritical then?
No, not really. I'm not about to criticize my union that they are being hypocritical, but that if they want to be very objective in their analysis, right, they should have understood it from the point of view of the people that were involved in taking that decision.
In other words, they're not being objective.
Well, if that is the way you understand it.
There's only so many ways to say it.
Is it because
is it that they're being objective or they're not? And if you say they're not being hypocritical, some people will say, but these lecturers lecture in these private universities, don't
yes,
they?
of course. They lecture in these private universities.
So can they turn around then to say that these institutions have helped lower the standards of education?
Well, you see, don't forget that before the deregulation of the university sector, the higher institution sector, for several decades, public universities have managed to, establish a standard. Whether the standard established is acceptable or not is another thing that we can debate. But at least there has been a standard before the coming in of the private, universities. And of course, and that is why you see that when the private universities came on board, they relied heavily on the support of lecturers from, public universities to take off, right? And of course, it is not as if when they maintain standard in university, in their parent university, only to provide support to private university to lower standard. That is not the case. So when ASU is insisting on maintaining standard, the standard should be across board.
I'm going to come to you now, Dr. Adeniyi. Let's quickly take a look at some of the figures, because you also were being a little ambivalent, in terms of at what cost, the private institutions should come in and help out with the challenge of education, tertiary education at hand. Now, some of the findings from JAMB datasheet showed that of 293 tertiary institutions, only 5 universities, UI, UNN, UNILAG, UNIBEN, and OAU, pegged their minimum at 200. LASU was at 190. Of 27 others, public and private, pegged theirs at 180. And 22 private universities pegged their cutoff at 120. Even one of them went as low as 110. So can we really say that private universities are not lowering standards?
Okay, that's fine. I want to, in responding to you, I want to move from the general to the specific. My general comment will be this, earlier on I was talking about the power of the private sector, the initiative of the private sector to galvanize processes. And it is on record. I was trying to make the argument somewhere else that some of the best universities in the world are actually private, but they did not grow in one day. It took time for them to gestate, for them to mutate, and to get to the level in which we celebrate them now. When was the regulation in Nigeria? 1999, before we had Babcock, Igbenedion University, and Madonna also. And from then on, more private universities have come up.
It seems that there's a proliferation. We have over 50
it's not a proliferation.
Private universities now, from 1999, from 3
about 60 even. It's not a proliferation, please. The reason is that...
What would we call that? From
what
3
is the
to
population
60?
of Nigeria? Nigeria is a nation of about 200 million people, and we have just a little over 100 universities. United States is a nation of 300 and something million people, and they have about 500 universities and colleges, and these are degree awarding institutions. The United Kingdom is a nation of about 66 million people, and the number of higher institutions in the UK is almost as equal as that of Nigeria.
But the question was, how did they grow?
Yeah, it's a process that we are in. We are headed for a destination, and at some point we are going to get there. So I'm not going to be party to, I will object very clearly to demonization of processes aimed at bettering, at improving our system, okay? Private universities have their challenges, but it's a matter of time, especially now that public institutions are failing. And let me tell you, how do we classify, how do we departmentalize, how do we compartmentalize these private, public institutions that we're talking about? Federal universities established very recently one structure, hardly struggling for academic staff, you know, are you going to privilege that over Covenant University, for instance, or over Bayes University, over American University of Nigeria, in terms of some of the 4 things that you need to establish a very good university? And what are these things? Human resources, infrastructures and utilities, and environment. Those are the basic things that you need to have a very good university.
I am sure that
and by the time you're able to get to some level you know, on this criteria or criterion, as it were, I mean, you will say, obviously, you have a very good university.
Dr. Day, I'm sure you've heard the comment from some of your colleagues, especially from public institutions, who say that private institutions are no better than glorified secondary schools.
Well, if you say they are not better, it's okay. It's an opinion.
Have you heard that?
I haven't really, but it's an opinion. I'm going to tell you, I've also heard people said some public institutions are glorified secondary schools.
Have you heard
there are different kinds of public institutions.
we
have the University of Ibadan. I will have federal universities around the corner.
Dr. Sulaiman, have you heard that?
I've had so much. I've had so many
Would
things.
you say that it's a fair comment to describe
it's not
universities
it's not
as glorified secondary schools?
It's not fair.
It's not fair?
I must tell you, it's not fair.
Why
you see, I told you earlier that when private university, you know, started coming on board, right, they relied heavily on support from, you know, lecturers in public universities.
Well, we'll explore those comments.
You understand? Yeah.
We'll explore those comments a little further. We have to take a moment now.
What it means is that we cannot... Okay.
I will let you expatiate a bit more on that when we return from this break. And we'll also be talking about the role of the National Universities Commission, the NUC. Have they failed in their role as regulator? Please stay with us.